It happens sometimes. The lottery, you think you could just go, here's a cashier's check for the 220 million, we're buying every number. The lotteries will say, nope, you have to go, someone has to go buy the tickets. Because you would then upset the system.
So, no, keep on going, Marty.
Oh, it's 6 o'clock.
I do want. Do you want to do this in order? Fall on the other. And, yeah, no, yeah, I was getting. I put.
I'd rather.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, very good.
I know the mayor does need to leave.
Administration Finance Committee meeting to order. All 5 members are present. And can I have a motion for approval of the June 28th, 2021 minutes?
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 2 is a closed session item. It's a discussion regarding potential reductions to operating budget expenses. For agenda item number 2, the committee may convene in closed session pursuant to the provisions of section 19.851G of the state statutes for the purposes of conferring with legal counsel for the committee who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the committee with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. The committee may reconvene in open session after the completion of the closed session in order to consider the balance of the agenda. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And Alderman Tenorio.
Aye.
And
Aye.
Alderman Lysick. Chair votes aye. Alderman Weigel.
Aye.
And Alderwoman Keene.
Aye.
That's.
Did you want to read the other one too?
And
Same time or?
yes, thank you for prompting me on that. And then also, while in closed session, we will discuss item number 3, which is a discussion of the financial impact of the joint fire department option under Wisconsin statute section 16.132MA. And I don't think I need to read that same thing again because it's what I had read just a moment ago. So we're in closed session. Thank you, everybody.
All set?
Yes, please, go
All right.
ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So, unfortunately, I do have a brief amount of time this evening, but I just want to take a quick minute to kind of officially introduce this lovely document to you. It's, I really think it's probably been one of the top 2 hardest budgets we've had to go through in the past 13 years. I'm not going to go over why again. I mean, it's in there. It hasn't changed from the previous budget descriptions and challenges. I do want to take a minute to just focus on some of the highlights before I turn it over to Rebecca and she gets to give all the bad news. But, I mean, we've been through some of it already, but I want to take a minute to thank Rebecca. I want to thank Jason and Chris in finance, and I want to thank staff who's here and also department heads and staff who are not here for their input and their help and their suggestions in tackling this. Just a couple of things I want to bring to light on some of the initiatives in here based on what I've been hearing over the past year from our residents and our businesses. I'm hoping to laser focus on a lot of reckless driving things. We had an unfortunate incident a few weeks ago where a pursuit went into Milwaukee and a pedestrian was struck and killed. Reckless driving is not unique to West Allis, but I'd like to definitely take some steps to address the concerns and the complaints that I know I've been getting, and I'm sure a lot of you have been also getting. Some of that has been working, a lot of that has been working with the attorney's office and the police department's office, possibly getting some cameras on some of the gateways to our city to get better images and footage of people coming and going. Also, the attorney's office, Attorney Decker, came up with a state statute we can begin to focus on that is a little bit over my head in legalese verbiage, but trust me, it's pretty cool. We've been getting a lot of complaints about small gray critters in a lot of our neighborhoods and alleys, and I want to focus a bit more on some of the nuisance property issues and can continue to try to narrow the focus onto those and work among the departments together rather than having so many separate departments going to respond to the complaints we get. We've done some of that, but I think we can do more. I'm also working with police department and community development with Patrick on some neighborhood lighting efforts to try to use some federal block grant funding to identify on an overlay where some of the higher incidents of perhaps alley break-ins or prowling, things like that are going on, and try to get some solar-powered motion lights in a lot of our alleys and a lot of our neighborhoods that are seeing a lot of I will say crime in the alleys and darker areas. I did outline in the budget a 1-month pilot program, hopefully in January of next year, where we know how it is when there's a snowstorm. They always seem to be on Sunday nights, and it always seems to mess up our garbage, and there's been such a belief that we have to maintain garbage if we can or catch up, and there's just going to be a 1-month effort in there to change that and try something new for January of 2022, just to see how that goes and see how the people respond. And then the last thing in there that I think is another thing we need to continue to work on, and that's just some additional efforts to increase our diversity and our inclusion training and activities in the community. So those are some of the things I want to focus on. Again, the financial struggles are real. I think that this budget was going to be $22 or $23 a year on an average home in West Allis. So hopefully we can keep our service level at an acceptable level, keep our taxes at an acceptable rate, and ramp up in these areas. And it's going to be $2 a month on an average home for that. So that's my quick intro. I don't know if anybody has any questions before I turn things over to Rebecca.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I just have, you brought up,
Alderman Vitale.
oh, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I know I look at you.
I'm kind of teasing you, Vince. That's
Oh, I
all.
know you are.
Go ahead.
I know you are. The question that you mentioned, and I think was one of the first words, came out from your presentation, in reference, the East End, to me, talk about cameras, I believe that something should be really seriously look into it, because many of the say robbery or getaway, they do happen on the east end. It could be at the Alley Road to the freeway, National, Greenfield, Mitchell, Burnham. That's all getaways and people do something and then they shoot east, you know. And I think it's been a biggest problem. I'm sure the police department, they do have a records on that, you know.
And Mr. Chair, I guess, I think the key word you said is gateway, Alderman Vitale, and I think some of it even is on the north side of Highway 100 where you can just either disappear on the freeway
Yeah.
or, you know, there was a couple years ago now, was unfortunately a homicide on 60th Street and they were on the freeway before the call even came
Yes.
in. And once you get on the freeway, it's just, you're gone. I mean, so you're right. And that's, I mean, I'm lean on police department to indicate where they think cameras would be best located. Now, we did talk in years past about cameras at red lights and writing tickets for people running lights, but that's a different animal. This is just better imagery and better coverage of our community and who's coming and going.
You know, from my really experience that I've been seeing in the other parts of the world, you know, they have a sophisticated cameras, you know, even for speeders. People, I mean, there have to be nobody around, but people, they do get a citation mailed to the house.
Well, they have
with a
different laws, too.
Date court, if you don't
The state
pay
statute doesn't allow us
until
to
so
do
many
that.
days, you go to court, and they don't play around with. To me, that's an effective program. Maybe it's a cost, you know, but it happens in many parts of the world, really.
Right, in Wisconsin, it's not legal.
It's not legal.
State law.
State law is not illegal.
Well, I mean, that's, I just
since
say,
the state always
the other
listens
parts
to
of the
us,
world,
I
I didn't say Wisconsin. But that's would be the
Can't move
ideal
that. Certainly in
thing
Wisconsin.
to have, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it just, we cannot legally do it, and that's, I would guess our city attorney would advise us against that if we proposed it.
But he knows all of it, so.
Yeah. He may find a loophole to do it, but.
Kelly's good at it. He's good at it.
We'll have a little town at every section, entry section of our city. All right. Well, I unfortunately have to leave, so, but just thank you for your time, and if you have any questions for me after the fact, feel free to reach out, give me a call.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rebecca.
Now the bid.
Yeah, sure. I'm Rebecca Grill. I'm the city administrator. I'm joined by our finance director, Jason Casimir. We'll go over the mayor's recommended budget for 2022. He did highlight some of the things, so some things I might be repeating. I do want to go over some of the financial challenges that I've talked to the council about before, but I think it's important just to reiterate those. So some of the things I'll be saying, you've heard quite a few times, but I think it's important to have it in the context of the budget. But to start with, we went through the strategic planning process this year. We have our strategic plan that is expiring 2021. So we went through a process for 2022 to 26. We had a new vision statement, a simplified one that came out of that, stating that will become the preferred city for visitors, residents, and businesses. The mission statement remains the same as what we had before. However, there's 5 new focuses that we have for the next 4 years. This is the strategic plan, and mission and vision statement is what we base a lot of our budget and business plans on. So the first one is community, then destination, financial, infrastructure, and organizational excellence. These are new topics, but they're similar to the focuses we had in the previous strategic plan. The mayor mentioned before that his budget really focuses on quality of life initiatives, the reckless driving deterrence program, enforcement and nuisance control, the neighborhood lighting program, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the garbage recycling and pilot program. For the reckless driving initiative, I believe Chief Marks is here, but I had spoken with Chief Mitchell, and there is a pilot program that you can have a company that actually comes and owns the camera and maintains them, and they would put them in certain places at the gateway locations, and they keep the cameras up to date, so as technology improves, you always keep the most up-to-date cameras. So that is part of the reckless driving deterrence. But the other portion, I don't know, Cale, could you just briefly describe what the $10,000
Sure.
is?
So the charge of reckless driving right now is a traffic ticket, and it's about $200, or it can be up to $500 if the circumstances are right. We found it to be a relatively low amount considering the danger of reckless driving. So when asked to look into it more, there's actually a separate charge outside of traffic laws called just negligent operation of vehicle. It's based upon basically causing danger to people who are not on the road. It's not a traffic violation, so it's actually in state law a Class A misdemeanor. And since we adopt penalties that are equivalent to what the state penalties are, Class A misdemeanors top forfeiture is actually $10,000. So it would allow the city to impose a $10,000 forfeiture upon someone for endangering the safety of people who are not on the road. Especially in the case of reckless driving. I'm sure the police could tell you all kinds of stories about this, but someone taking a turn on the corner of 60th and National, you can bet that there are people on private property that are being endangered by that act if they're trying to flee from the police or if they're committing reckless driving acts. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to use this tactic. We'll be, particular with it. It's not going to be a broad sweeping thing, but when the opportunity presents itself, we're going to be targeting it. And the idea would be that $10,000 forfeiture would be imposed not as a traffic ticket, but as a municipal ordinance violation. Could actually result in the person having to go to jail potentially. It could also be subject to things like garnishment. So there are ways that it would be more impactful, I think, on the person who's committing reckless driving.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
Cale, on something like that, if I was an offender, wouldn't I be better off just transferring downtown and hoping for mercy from one of the downtown judges rather than have it as a municipal?
So they don't get to choose.
They don't,
It would
okay.
be charged in West Dallas Municipal Court. The West Dallas Municipal Judge would hear it. West Dallas Municipal Judge would render judgment. They could appeal it, but it's going to be either a new trial, but it's going to be a long process to get there.
Okay,
And when the West Dallas Municipal Court judge issues a judgment, we can then take that and do what's called a transcript of judgment downtown and make it a lien against any property, make it a collectible judgment that we could use, like I said, earnings garnishment, even garnishing assets. So
good.
again, it'll be very targeted only to particular ones in which we think it'll be effective on. But when that happens, it's going to be, I think, a major deterrent.
Good.
Thank you. Any questions on the quality of life initiatives? The mayor went into them a little bit. They were also covered in his budget letter, but if you have any, I'm not going to go in depth with them at this time, but if you have any more questions on them, please let me know. I think it's important to always remember the challenges that we face when we're dealing with the budget. We have the taxpayer financial limitations. We have all of our outstanding capital and maintenance projects such as street lighting, our facility repairs, our aging infrastructure, recruiting and retention of high-quality employees, which becomes even more of a challenge every day, our expenditure restraint program, and then levy limits. And I have a few slides about the challenges. As you know, we're about 60,000. We have the median value of our housing units is about 146,000, and we have 12% of our people in West Dallas that live in poverty, and 15% of people are over 65, presumably living on fixed incomes. Our street lighting conversion project, that is going to be costing us between $40 and $60 million over the next few years to convert the street lights. Then we have the facility study that we had in 2018, where we have over $60 million of maintenance and repairs that was identified, which over time will go up to $90 million. We have our aging infrastructure. Our replacement cycles of the streets and water mains and sanitary sewers are incredibly long. We have 70 years and 159 for water mains, and a little over 81 for the sanitary sewers. Our personnel, this is attracting and retaining high-quality employees is a challenge. We've continued to reduce the number of employees. This year, I'll go into a little bit later about the number of employees, but we're under 500 for the general fund positions, which is significantly less than the past few years. We do have other funding sources for a little over 50 of those employees. You can see the benefited positions, we've dropped 18 in 1 year, and each year before that, we've been dropping those from various departments. Just highlighting our salary and benefits. In 2021, we were about a little over 35 million. We did go down to 34.5 million. This is due in part because of the reduction in workforce we have proposed in this 2022 recommended budget of elimination of over 15 positions, 9 of which were filled. Our health and dental benefits are almost $9 million. There's an increase of $466,000. We're estimating, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next item, we're estimating a 7% increase for the health benefits from last year. And then the retiree benefits are over $3 million. And on the top, you can see that our personnel expenses are now 87% of our general fund budget. That keeps getting larger each year because we're reducing the other costs to maintain the budget. So yeah, it was 80, I think it was 85 last year and 83 the year before. So each year we keep going higher on those. Just a little bit additional benefit information. We do have contributions that the city does to the Wisconsin retirement system for employees. I just wanted to highlight that there are different contributions depending on the type of employee. So for example, I just picked 62,500 as a comparison, but if you're a fire department employee, the city contributes over 16% for your retirement contribution. So that would equal over 10,000. Police is about 7,500. And then a general fund employee is a little over 4,000. So as you're looking at reduction of staff, it takes more general fund employees that you would have to reduce because we don't have as much contribution for their WRS as we do for the police and fire. Any questions on anything I've gone over thus far? And then this is just a personnel by function. So I believe last year our public safety percentage was 53%. We're up to 59% for public safety. Public works is 19, general government 15, and then health, culture, and recreation is about 7%. Then the other challenges that we regularly talk about are levy limits and the expenditure restraint program. So I'll briefly describe what those are again. Expenditure restraint is aid that's provided to certain municipalities who limit growth in spending. It's calculated based on the rated budget growth plus an inflation rate plus an adjustment based on growth in municipal property values. We have received about $1.5 million per year, and our average over the last 7 years has been 2.1%. In 2016 was our lowest expenditure restraint at $400,000. That was the year that we had the health insurance change that saved millions of dollars instead of laying off employees. The levy limits, they prohibit municipalities from increasing their base tax levy by more than the percentage change of the net new construction. between the previous year and the current year. And net new construction is demolishing building and land improvements in a city that's fully built up, such as West Allis. We don't have a lot of net new construction to give us additional capacity under the levy limits. If we exceed the levy limit, we lose, the penalty is a dollar for dollar loss of the shared revenue. So just to put this into context, we're not the only municipality in the state of Wisconsin that is facing the funding crisis. There's all of us are. The state of Wisconsin, we have an over-reliance on property taxes to fund local governments. Wisconsin Policy Forum estimated in 2019 that we're the seventh for being the most reliant, the seventh state to be most reliant on property tax for their revenues, which, as an aside, with the ARPA funding, a lot of that, the money that was given to municipalities was based on loss of revenue. We didn't, as a municipality, doesn't really rely on revenue that much. We didn't lose that much revenue, so it doesn't give you an opportunity to utilize it in a lot of different ways, except what we've talked to the council about with the water and sewer usage. Then other municipalities have done some levy limit referendum between 2006 and 2017. 31 municipalities passed referendum to increase those limits. I believe when you do that, that's basically a 1 year.
Yeah, it's an increase that you can have temporarily. You could say, I want a referendum to build a new building, and that's going to be here and it's going to be gone. You could do a referendum where you permanently increase your levy, but the one thing that I don't believe you can do is have an ever increasing referendum. So, if you did any sort of referendum to, let's say, just balance the budget, you would then have to come back and do that all over again the next year. So it's designed, referendums are more designed to take care of a particular, more of a one-time issue that you might want to tackle.
Thank you. And then the Wisconsin Policy Forum has done some analysis of other police budgets in municipalities, and in 2018 and 2019, 1 in 3 police budgets decreased through all size communities throughout Wisconsin. What does all this mean for West Allis? We shared this with you a few weeks ago. We could only increase our general fund budget by approximately $350,000, and so we had to find $1.7 million to just close that gap. So that's what we've been working really hard with the departments. I really appreciate everyone's cooperation and help with that over the last few months. I thought it would be important to go over some of the mitigation efforts that we've done in the past few years to meet our levy limits and expenditure restraint. Since Act 10, the council has decided to do gradual changes to the health and pension contributions over the initial years, I believe, between 2011 and 2015. There were gradual changes. There were limited wage increases during that time. We reduced the capital funding. A lot of the departments used to have capital funding and build up money in their budgets for capital purchases. We had reduced those. We did the health insurance changes. I mentioned that before. Elimination of positions over the years. We also had the reduction in workforce initiative. This year we have another package for a number of positions. We consolidated a lot of our administrative employees and tasks into our customer services center, and we've done technology investment to reduce the amount of manual labor that we need in doing a lot of our different works. So I just wanted to go over at a high level, the position changes that are in the budget from 2021 to 2022. Some of these are part of the reduction in workforce from last year. Some of them are part of the initiative for this year. So there's a consolidation of 6 positions into 3. That was part of the workforce, reduction of workforce program. Also elimination of 15 positions. 3.25 of them were part of the reduction in workforce program. 2 positions where the incumbents were reassigned. 9 eliminated positions were filled, and then 0.75 was vacant. In addition to those positions listed above, there were 5 positions where people are being reassigned, and there's 5 positions that are being recommended to be unfunded. And then by department, just listed the changes here. The municipal court has no changes. I combined the admin, HR, and the clerk's office. The clerk's office, primarily in 2021, we've reduced, by the end of the year, we'll have eliminated 2.5 positions in there. And then myself, I'm being shared between the administrator and the city clerks. The attorney's office has an estimate for average claims this year. If that claims estimate, if the actual claims exceeds the average in 2022, we would have to look for additional funding. The assessor's office, the recommendation is to move the administrative support person to the customer service center, have the funding for limited term employees to assist with the reval, and then restore the funding for the appraiser position. I believe earlier in the summer, the city assessor, Jason Williams, was before the committee explaining the need for the revaluation and things like that, which is why these are included in the recommended budget. In the building inspection and neighborhood services, there's a recommendation to move the administrative support assistant to the customer service center. And then with the departure of the department head and another employee working with the mayor and the departments to come up with the best structure for the department activities and provide that to the council, hopefully in the first quarter of 2022, January or February, in anticipation that some of the positions might remain open. We reduced some of the salary funding for that department to meet the budget restrictions. The changes, there weren't any changes in communication department. In economic development, at the end of the year, there'll be an elimination of an administrative support specialist. That's part of the reduction in workforce program also. Engineering department, we're more accurately reflecting the time that the staff works on the different projects. So some of their funding, the salary budget went down due to that. Finance and comptroller, the elimination of administrative support assistant, changing the accounting specialist to a payroll administrator. That happened earlier in 2021. Decrease in maintenance contracts, transfer of software maintenance to the IT budget. And I did there is moving an accounting specialist to the customer service center too. I did miss putting that in there. In the fire department, over the past years, we have not funded 3 firefighter positions. They remain unfunded in this 2022 budget. An additional reduction was for the fire department has obtained funding through a contract for the mobile integrated health program, so there's a reduction in the salary account for that also. In the health department, a lot of their changes were due to the reduction in workforce. They just became effective through 2021. So this is showing the difference between 2021 and 2022. So there's an elimination of an admin support assistance, a combining preparedness coordinator with environmental team leader, consolidation of 2 positions into 1 position. That happens 3 times with various different positions in the health department, then reclassification of 2 positions, and then a reduction in the salary for 2022 because they're going to be continuing to receive grant funds. But eventually, those positions will have to get refunded in the general fund account because, well, hopefully we won't have COVID going on for decades. Then in the IT department, there's elimination of a business process analyst position and a PC tech position, a decrease in professional services because we had that new printer service, which I believe it's almost cut in half the cost. The increase in maintenance contracts, we have new enterprise software and Microsoft applications. When COVID first started, we had just moved to Office 365, which is more of an online program, and that was very helpful working virtually and things like that. So there's different levels of licensing for that. We're going to be purchasing higher level for more people. There's more collaboration that becomes available when you have the different licensing. We also need to have more computer replacements and camera upgrades, so there's a little additional funding for that, the cameras I mentioned before. And then when we do have more of a mobile workforce, we do have increased costs for cell phones and mobile devices. The library, there was 1 position unfunded and 3 positions eliminated. Public Works Department, we have a number of positions eliminated through this year's initiative, and then other positions reallocated there as outlined up there. In the Planning Zoning Department, there were not any changes to note. In the Police Department, recommendation to move an administrative support assistant to our customer service center here at City Hall. And then the Treasurer Customer Service Center, we're moving 4 positions from the various departments that I already covered into the Customer Service Center so they can be permanently assigned in there just for ease of scheduling and better continuity of and service delivery for the public. And then we're also increasing the banking transaction fees in anticipation of accepting credit cards for more.
Thank you.
So those are the summary of the changes. Are there any questions or any more detail that you'd like me to provide on any of these?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Vitale.
I believe our director from our city here, she's, I mean, I like to say loud, along with the help of the other departments, you have done a hell of a good job, really.
Thank you.
I mean, I never have seen many years that I've been here that we had such unique presentations, you know, in details what affects us within our city, really.
Well, we
This
have
is-
a really good team here.
Yes, thank you. I
Lots
appreciate
of
that.
talented people. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
a
Alderwoman
lot
Reinke.
of members of these departments are being moved to the customer service center. How many people basically are needed in that customer service center?
Well, there's 4 people being moved.
Okay.
So you need at least 3 or 4 staff in there all the time, but we're moving more and more of the responsibilities into the customer service center. So we're transitioning phone calls from each of the departments for the general numbers into the customer service. We're transitioning that slowly. So as you move the work, you need to have more people in there to help do that. So now we'll have there'll be 6 people total assigned in there. You have the treasurer, the customer service supervisor, and then 4 staff members that'll be working the counter and providing service at the window, and then people who might be calling in.
So they would stay in the customer service center? and not
Correct.
Work in other departments?
Correct.
I see, okay.
And it's not just that we're just adding 4. There were, people were helping out on more of a part-time basis
Right,
at
I
this
noticed
point.
that, right.
I gotta imagine this is gonna help out tremendously with scheduling people to be in there and available.
So they would stay there full-time instead of part-time because they're shifting around? But
Right now,
it's
it's,
full-time.
yeah, it will be that way. Right now, it's a challenge for departments with their staff having to be assigned there and then back in their office and
Right.
things like this. This will make it a lot easier. I'm sure there's some people here that would speak to the help it's going to be, but,
Okay?
okay. Then just to get into the details of the actual budget, we'll start with the revenues. Just the majority of our revenues come from taxes. We already talked about that. We rank the 6th in the nation with our reliance on property taxes. Then we also get intergovernmental aids and grants. Part of that is expenditure restraint, shared revenue, transportation aids, license fees and permits. We collect for the various departments, and then we have penalties and forfeitures. Maybe we'll increase these with the $10,000, I don't know. At least 1 or 2 of them. Then we have charges for services and then other miscellaneous revenues. Here it is in pictorial form. You can see 65% come from property taxes. The next highest is intergovernmental grants and aids. And our expenditures, each of the departments are under a category. So we have general government, where the majority of us are under. The 2020 amount is less than $10 million. That reduction is actually 5.5% due to a lot of the elimination and reassignment of positions. Public safety, which has police, fire, building inspection, planning, and zoning, is almost 39 million. There's an increase of 2.1% in that category. Public Works Department, which has Public Works and Engineering, is $12.2 million. They're also decreasing 4.4%. And then lastly, Health, Culture, and Recreation, that includes the Health Department and the library. They're the smallest account, so the reductions in their staff made up the largest percentage just because of the smaller size of their budget. So they're down almost 8% in those departments. Oh, apparently I deleted this. But it was to be a picture.
in ours, we can look.
Okay. It's a picture of this. So I'll replace that before I get it online. This is just the historical background information. It has the equalized values, our local tax rates, and the overall tax rates. So you can see the estimated for 2021 is 12.06% for the local tax rate. That means the city tax rate, not the overall tax rate. Sometimes people get confused when they get their tax bills. They think the city's portion is 100%. We're not 100%. So this just shows that we're less than half of the overall tax rate, or the estimate to be. So the general fund budget this year is balanced. You see the revenue and expenditures. We have to balance the budget. So we're a little over $65 million for the recommended budget for 2022. The next steps we have is administration finance meeting on next Monday if needed, and I believe it is needed because we're having a presentation from Ellers, I think. So, right?
Yep.
At 6 o'clock. And then if we need to talk about any other budget things, we're going to be obtaining the final information from the state, and then finalize the proposed tax rate. If you have any additional information that you need, we would provide that. The public hearing takes place on November 2nd at 7 p.m. And then the recommended budget would be considered for passage on November 16th before the council. I just wanted to go through these two things again. I went through this when I talked about the budget challenges a few weeks ago, just to highlight for people that might not have seen that the general fund budget comes from property tax revenues, but we also receive other money from different sources, such as tourism funding we get from hotel and motel room tax, and that has to be used on tourism promotion and tourism development. So we've been using a lot of that on our marketing activities. So we're not choosing marketing activities over employees. We have to utilize these funds for this purpose. And then same goes with the murals, our Living Streets program. We receive donations for our Artscape program. And then sometimes there are prioritizations of the general fund account, like burning streetscaping, or as the mayor had mentioned before, funding for cameras or additional code enforcement, nuisance abatement things. We just highlight that. And then going back to the ARPA, I mentioned this before, we didn't lose a lot of revenue, so we are really limited to using our funds for the water, sewer, and storm, and not revenue replacement. I just thought it was important to put that in there again, just so people know. And then that's all I have tonight, unless there's any questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grill, appreciate it. Then moving on to item number 5, discussion regarding health insurance plan with Anthem as the third-party administrator, funding levels, employee premiums, premium share, health savings contributions for the plan year of March 1, 2022 to February 28th, 2023.
So this is going to be a very brief discussion. We don't have all the final numbers. We had been talking with Anthem as one of the options is looking at maybe providing a different health plan for different classes of employees to see if we could mitigate some of the salary increases for certain employees that other employees aren't getting, and trying to more equalize the health care plan accordingly. It seems to be more of a challenge than we thought to have the two separate plans where it would be equitable. When you increase deductibles, your premiums lower. And so the appearance to the general person would think that that lower premium is they're getting a better plan, when in all actuality it's not. So we haven't come up with a good method to have two separate plans, nor are we in a position to possibly administer two separate plans. But I just wanted to have this on here in case there was something that we got from our health insurance, and then if there was any thought on looking at two different plans for different classes of employees going forward, or is this something that we should not consider? And I don't need an answer on that right now if you don't want to give it to me, but just at some point it would be helpful to get some guidance on that.
So what are the
Mr.
classes,
Chair.
union and non-union?
The health savings program is something that would be, I know many business places that, they had that for years already. So it would be a good program for the,
We do have a health savings account.
Right now, we do, right?
We do, and
Yeah.
then we also have another program, I don't know what it's called, where if,
The family savings plan?
the family savings
Family
plan,
savings,
thank
yeah.
you. So if your spouse has a plan and you go onto that plan, we'll essentially pay your premiums, all your out-of-pocket costs and things like that, because we're saving the actual claims and
Yes,
things
you
like
bet,
that.
yeah, totally.
So it's a really good benefit for
Yes.
employees that have taken it. I think some people are a little reluctant to do that, but it actually, some people actually make, I guess they make money on it.
Pretty
an
good.
investment, yeah, that's true, that's,
So, so we do have those type of things that
Yes.
we've done.
All right, anything further on that item? Anything else to properly come before the committee?
Move we adjourn.
And we'll adjourn until, we'll have a meeting 1 week from today at 6 PM next Monday. And we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.